Liberation greetings to all the brave warriors of our liberation movement of the southern Cameroons of Ambazonia. My dear people of Ambazonia, wherever you may be, on ground zero, ground one, ground two, in the diaspora, or even in La République du Cameroon. Today is Thursday, December 29, and my name is Komode John Akuro. My people of Ambazonia, I said in my previous communication that the times that the times are really, really critical for La République du Cameroun. Very critical. It's possible that sometimes when I say some of these things, some people think it is a joke. I said the level of desperation in La République du Cameroun has attained fever point. Right now, that country is hanging on a thread, on a very tiny thread. Anything, I mean anything can happen at any time. The apogee of this whole thing was attained when Paul Biya, the nonagenarian senile supposed ruler of that country, was exposed in Washington, D.C. The mask was removed, and everyone could see for themselves that Mr. Paul Biya is not only vegetable, but that the level of dementia in him has attained a point where he even a good lot of the time no longer knows exactly where he is, what he is doing. He's returned to the level of a baby that is still shown how to, take their first steps at walking. That is the level where La République du Cameroun is. That is a truth that has been hidden from the public for so long. I recall that we had some sound bites on Cameroon Calling when it was really Cameroon Calling, when I was still working with CLTV at a national station. And one of those bites will go this way. One will say, keep on telling lies to Cameroonians. And the next person comes in, of course, a CPDM apologist, and screams, if you tell them the truth, they will fight. More and more, the truth is being spilled out in spite of all the attempts being made by using the local media and the government media to manipulate the people to think that things are still working. Nothing, nothing is functioning in that country. Also, my people, when Paul Biya and his criminal gang in Yaounde received the invitation from US President Joe Biden to come to Washington, D.C. for the US Africa Leadership Summit, they simply, totally misinterpreted it. According to the Biya regime, it was a branch of olive. It was an indication that what usually could be a tumultuous relationship between Yaounde and Washington was normalizing really fast, and that Washington was already about to turn a blind eye on all the atrocity crimes being committed by Yaounde in the southern Cameroons and in other parts of their country. The misguided regime felt that because the invitation came on the heels of the indictment or the arrest and indictment of some of our compatriots in the United States of America, it meant that the United States of America was finally agreeing with Yaounde that the freedom fighters of the southern Cameroons are terrorists. This was an unfortunate interpretation. And of course, the visit to Yaounde to Washington, D.C. proved not only the contrary, it sent Yaounde into total disillusionment. I mentioned here before that all attempts at securing individual audiences with top US officials failed until Yaounde, at the end of the day, was only able to drop a mail with the Bureau of African Affairs at the US State Department, in which they made the insane request that US citizens be extradited to La République du Cameroon. Cameroon failed to understand that in place are instruments legally passed in the United States that have not been touched, that should have shown them that the policy orientation of the United States of America towards the ongoing armed conflict in the southern Cameroons or the ongoing Amazonian war of liberation has not changed. Because first, the temporary protection status extended to southern Cameroonians and of course to other citizens of La République du Cameroon fleeing from the tortures of that regime is still in place and is likely to be renewed. Next, the suspension of Cameroon from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, is still in place. It has not been lifted. And of course, Resolution 648, a bipartisan resolution supported by all 100 US senators, both from the Democratic and the Republican Party, should have shown to Yaounde that as it were, nothing completely has changed. That is why people in Yaounde were embarrassed, were shocked beyond proportions when they saw us in huge numbers on the streets, I beg your pardon, of Washington, D.C., demonstrating and in front of Conrad Hotel where the baby killer was hiding. Because they felt that we had been reduced to the barest expression. They were even told that we had all gone into hiding because we could no longer move freely since the US has started a witch hunt against all of us. But the fact that they saw us in huge numbers, determined, committed to the cause of our freedom, and being guarded on the streets of Washington, D.C. by the US law enforcement, the people ask themselves, but these are people who are supposed to be hiding. These are people who the law enforcement is supposed to be looking for. But here they are, freely demonstrating, being protected and guided by the same law enforcement. That is why I say always that falsehood has a very short lifespan. Falsehood never stands for long. Therefore, my people, the crux of this message is that, as it were, 2023 presents very horrible challenges for La République du Cameroon. I mean challenges of unimaginable proportions. That is why Yaounde is doing everything it takes to try and destabilize the southern Cameroon's resistance, to destabilize the Amazonian resistance, because they know another front is about to be opened in La République du Cameroon. And they fear they may not have enough forces to withstand all these fronts. That is why we are where we are today. My people of Amazonia, I have said on this platform before, and you will notice that it is quite a while I have not talked about the goings on in Canada. Today I will. So my people, one way you can contribute in making sure this message reaches the greatest part of our population, the people who need to hear it most, especially on ground zero, is to share and share and share until you can share no more once you are listening to this live broadcast. I've said it before that La République du Cameroon has been fighting this platform with all its might. Reason? Sometimes you have subscribed. You have personalized your settings so that you should have alerts once I'm on a live show. But you usually don't get those alerts. So therefore, help as many people as possible to get access to this message. Because as I said, we are traversing a very critical moment in our liberation quest. You hear lousy talks here and there about Things are normalizing on the ground. Life is becoming normal. Don't forget, my people, that our brave hearts are humans, and they have always recognized the fact that the population of Ambazonia is a pious population that holds matters relating to our Creator, to God, dear to their hearts. That is why from 2017 to date, every time in December, leading up to Christmas, the guard has generally been lowered with no announcement made to allow the peace loving and gregarious people of Ambazonia to enjoy the end of year feast, to enjoy Christmas. Usually, some have referred to it as a Christmas, voluntary, unilateral, and unannounced truce, generally an understanding. And always, La République du Cameroon has misunderstood it to mean that the people of Ambazonia were about to give up on their quest for freedom. That is a lie. As Ambazonians, we have made clear and we have shown it to the world that we will never stop until we send the last vestiges of La République's colonial presence out of our territory. I mean the very last vestiges. Therefore, my people, the manipulation has started. Of course, no one should be in doubt because the understanding, the entente between the two parties, that is those from La République du Cameroon and those from Amazonia, who have been engaged in exploratory talks in Canada, has been that everything has to be kept under wraps. I mean under wraps until both parties get to some kind of agreement on whether a process will be put in place or not. And therefore, for the first time in a long while, La République du Cameroon is shocked that the Amazonian side, despite the diversity of those who were there, have remained glued to the objective, have remained committed to exactly what they agreed to the code of silence until everything is clarified. But La République du Cameroon, as always, would like to exploit the information gap and try and provoke our people so that we become the first to breach a protocol agreed to. They use all kinds of techniques so they can come back and say, we don't even know who is doing this, we are not part of it, we are not aware, it could even be this, it could even be that. But my people of Ambazonia, we know the footprints of La République du Cameroon when we see them. We know the footprints of La République du Cameroon when they are just, even if they are getting too old, we can still see and we will know. So therefore, right now as I'm speaking, there are tracts circulating all over Ambazonia, in the major cities, in Bamenda, in Kumba, in Boya, in Victoria, in Kumbo, in Bengui, in Dop, in Kambe, everywhere, in Fundong, in Du, in Bello, in Ginicom, saying it is an olive branch, and that while they are anticipating an enlarged dialogue in 2023 by Mr. Paul Biya, with effect from January 1, 2023, the ghost towns are uplifted all over the sovereign territory of Ambazonia. All defense forces of Ground Zero are hereby instructed to return to the barracks. Now, look at the wordings. They try to hide their tracks by using expressions that they believe that when our people see, they'll say, yes, this is actually from us. By using all over the sovereign territory. Let me be very clear, my people of Amazonia. And I said so in one of my recent outings, that the issue of ghost towns has never come under consideration or under discussion. Will never come under consideration or under discussions. Never. that will never constitute any kind of form of compromise of agreement between La République du Cameroon and the liberation movements representing Ambazonia. Anywhere. This is a clear and tacit commitment from the entire leadership of the Ambazonian liberation movements. The ghost towns will be in force until the blast of the very final whistle. Recall, my people of Ambazonia, I have said here over and over and over again that Monday goes down. That single Monday goes down denies La République du Cameroon every single opportunity to try and fool the world that normalcy has returned, that the people of Ambazonia have decided to give up on their quest for freedom, that the people of Ambazonia have finally decided to recognize a utopic one Cameroon. That Monday goes down has so affected the economy of La République du Cameroon to the point where the parks, as I'm saying, the parks are crumbling. Each time when I say it, I refer you to treasury services across the country. Find out. Much of this year, I announced that the state budget of La République du Cameroon only entered into execution in the final weeks of the month of July. Normally, it gets into execution in the last week of the month of January. And so now the year has ended. And that was just the first trimester. So what happened to the second trimester? There was no money. You will hear ballooning figures announced by La République du Cameroon as being their budgetary estimates. Basically, because that country lives on make-believe. They want to give the impression to the people that year after year the state budget is increasing because the economy is resilient and is performing well, which is not true. 2022 exposed them because they knew they could not realize a third of that budget, and that is why it never entered into execution right until the end of the month of July. My people of Ambazonia, La République du Cameroon's 2023 state budgetary estimates are laughable. But that country hopes to raise 3,000 billion CFA from taxes alone, and that money just for recurring expenses, nothing for investments. And that is why they are currently asphyxiating the people. From January 1, 2023, life in La République du Cameroon would be worse than hell. I mean, worse than hell. That is why they are after our ghost towns. That is why they are after this manipulation. Your role in stemming and overcoming this criminal act by the crime syndicate in Yaounde, championed by nonagenarian senile Paul Biya, is to circulate this message as much as you can. Let each and every one know that those tracks are not from us, not from Ambazonians, not from Southern Cameroonians. That those tracks are straight from the propaganda machinery of La République du Cameroon. Of course, don't forget the local media, including CRTV, which has become total paparazzi, which has become a pravda. Of course, if you know the meaning of pravda, only seeing what the government says, say this, say that, do that. Cameroon Tribune, and even all of those media houses in the country will soon begin singing this track. Will soon begin transmitting the message on this track. Oh yes, it's true. Mr. Paul Biya has already offered an olive branch and they have accepted. Everything should now return to normal. Why forget? My people of Ambazonia, when you will get the communications regarding the goings on in Canada, stay glued to your screens. Listen to the leadership of this liberation movement. Listen to every single word that will proceed out of the mouth of everyone. Because La République du Cameroon is known worldwide as a malicious bad faith manipulator, that does not mean that we, as Ambazonians, will not interact with them on the international scene in the presence of third parties. But together, we must take safeguards to make sure that we never give La République du Cameroon the opportunity to continue to place a wedge in our midst. La République du Cameroon is even the more frightened because when they went to Canada, they were expecting to see disorganization. They were expecting to see serious infighting among our people, among our delegates. They were expecting to see how they could try and divide us, and make sure we have conflicting opinions, conflicting positions, so that they were exploited. But unfortunately, they met a very coordinated, orderly, and disciplined group of young men and women. And now the fright La République du Cameroon has is that if things have to continue that way, then it will mean from 2023, their trump card being division, ever division and more division among Ambazonians is crumbling. And if it crumbles completely, that will mean they have lost grounds because that is the only capital they have to hold against us. My people of Ambazonia, we have to remain vigilant. We have to remain firm. We have to remain committed to this liberation movement. Nobody in the leadership of this movement is sleeping. We are all totally alert. Before coming to do this communication, I made the necessary consultations to be sure that we are all on the same page. And of course, all those in the leadership that I spoke to were unanimous, loud and clear. There is never going to be any form of arrangement that will result to us saying we have uplifted the ghost towns. The ghost town on Monday is the civilian form of resistance that has crippled La République du Cameroon more than anything else. Those ghost towns remain the most visible symbol of the determination of a huge majority of the people of Ambazonia to get absolute independence. I like to use absolute independence always because that is the word that 69% of them on ground zero used when they responded to questions commissioned in a survey by the late Christian Cardinal Toomey. So my people of Ambazonia, I like to make it loud and clear. The ghost towns on Monday remain in place until the blast of the final whistle. No shaking. No shaking at all. La République du Cameroon cannot fool the world that normalcy has returned once any guest who just visits that part of the world sees for themselves that every Monday the people of Ambazonia shut down the towns, the cities, and the villages completely to tell the world that give us freedom or give us death. And therefore I listened to some misguided fellows who claimed that they were part of us yesterday and who found themselves begging for audience with Mr. Paul Biya in Washington, D.C., but unfortunately were not granted. I'm talking here of Santos Ngu and Sofoncha. And they found themselves babbling on my media prime and making lousy claims of, of my person, thriving on, issuing out asylum documents and collecting money. I said falsehood always has a very short lifespan. Because they expected that some of us who found ourselves in the diaspora because of this liberation movement, totally dispossessed of all our earnings, of all our property, of everything that we've had. They felt that we were going to become so pauperish, so beggarly, to the point where they could be able to manipulate us in any way. But they found out that we are fighters, that wherever we lay our feet, we will fight until we break through, until we overcome our daily challenges of bread and butter, and stand shoulders high with integrity to continue prosecuting this liberation movement. It shocks them. It embarrasses them. They went cap in hand, expecting to cut more money stained with the blood of Mama Api, the blood of Bebe Carol Louise, the blood of Bebe Tato Brandy, on claims that they have learned. They made mistakes. They were misled. When an adult who has been to school and calls themselves doctor tells you that I was misled by other adults, come on, give me a break. Then that one doesn't deserve any form of respect from anybody. Tell me you had an error of judgment. There I begin to understand you. But you tell me you were misled by another man or by another human being when you are an adult with all your faculties. Give me a break. That means that you are not human. That means that, you are not worthy of anybody's consideration because you have no mind of your own. Because it means tomorrow you are going to come back to say, even the current position that you are taking, you were still misled by another person. You are not the driver of your mind, of your thought pattern. You don't have integrity. You don't have a position. You are blown by the wind. My people, I know this communication is running slightly long, but I want you to listen to this because I want you to know where La République du Cameroun is coming from. When I tell you that Armageddon is coming in 2023, you may think it is a joke. The citizenry across the country are beginning to say very loudly what they have been concealing in their stomachs, that things are not working, that misery is going beyond bounds, and they are literally getting out of their minds. Just have a little listen, but I'll eventually upload this short video on this platform. So you listen, you watch, and you hear for yourself where La République du Cameroun is. And you will know why they are running out now, helter-skelter, like, like frustrated town criers, spilling misinformation around and, spraying useless tracks. Just listen a bit. It's in French, but I'll interpret briefly.
Je suis maman de 4 enfants. Les enfants vont à l'école ou n'ont même pas de papier. Le jadida qui coûtait 2000, c'est déjà à 2500. L'huile qui coûtait 1200 est déjà à 1800 le maillot. Le diamant coûte 1550 au quartier, mais ici là au commis c'est 1200. Nous envoyons la nouvelle à ceux qui nous dirigent. Les Camerounais souffrent. Ne restez pas dans les bureaux là-bas pour nous dire que tout va bien. Rien ne va au Cameroun. Rien. Nous souffrons. On n'a rien.
So you heard that. You see, this is a lady standing now in broad daylight in the market square in La République du Cameroun, saying life is becoming unbearable. See, I'm saying this to the rulers of this country. Don't hide in your air-conditioned offices and say that things are moving. Nothing is moving in this country. We are suffering. We are dying. That is the atmosphere prevalent currently all over La République du Cameroun. It's boiling. It's boiling. It's boiling. It's getting to that place where an implosion will become totally unavoidable. My people of Amazonia, like tiny East Timor against mighty Indonesia, Amazonia is undoing La République du Cameroun. Like tiny Eritrea against mighty Ethiopia, Southern Cameroon is discombobulating La République du Cameroun. My people of Amazonia, gradually, we are getting there. Our labor shall never go in vain. I'd like to use this opportunity to invite each and every every one of us to remain committed and glued to this movement. Don't allow yourself to be used at this very last minute. Because the way things are going right now, the speed will increase. Increase so much so that at one point you will be embarrassed to see what grounds have been covered, sometimes within the space of weeks. And you will rise one morning to say, but wait a minute, what has just happened here? It is the fruit of our hard work. Remain glued, remain committed to this movement. No shaking until we scream at Bongo Square in Boya. Free, free, free at last. We are free. To God be the